is the Student Government Association Vice President. And we're so excited that you all are here, and we're going to go ahead and get started. So each year, the Auburn student body elects a final lecture award recipient during its annual spring elections. The final lecture award was created to give all students the opportunity to participate in a teaching award given on behalf of the student body, recognizing faculty who have made extraordinary contributions to Auburn University through classroom teaching, service, and service to the university. The award recognizes one of Auburn students' favorite professors and gives them the opportunity to present a short lecture on the topic of their choice. The event is meant to give students an opportunity to hear one final lecture from one of their favorite teachers before the semester ends and before they graduate. To be nominated and elected by students is one of the highest honors students can bestow upon a faculty member. This year, the student body elected Dr. Mark Wilson to give the final lecture. Dr. Wilson teaches community and civic engagement in the College of Liberal Arts and serves as a director of the Caroline Marshall Drawn Center for the Arts and Humanities. Dr. Wilson is a tremendous historian and an asset for the College of Liberal Arts and the university. He oversees one of the College of Liberal Arts outreach programs and spends his time connecting students with the community and global impacts of their education and the university's mission, which he'll share more about with us tonight. Without further ado, allow me to introduce the Student Government Association's 2018 Final Lecture Award winner, Dr. Mark Wilson.
Thanks, Scott. Short lecture, she said. I heard it. Y'all heard it. When I learned that a student nominated me for the Final Lecture Award, I was honored. Deeply honored. And then when I learned that I won, I was completely humbled and then, quite frankly, a little scared because I knew this moment would arrive. And I didn't know until just a few minutes ago who the culprit was, the person to thank or to blame. But now I've met that person, and I'm not going to reveal because depending on how this goes, I don't want you to attack that person. But Ken Ward, thanks for nominating me. I'm truly honored. My wife Kelly is here tonight. Where are you, dear? Almost 21 years we have been married. Each day is like a newly wrapped gift that surprises and delights us. And then our children, two young people Kelly and I not only love and admire, but simply wonder how we could be so fortunate to have. Benjamin, raise your hand, will be 16 tomorrow. I noticed me, I don't do that. Do you remember your 16th birthday eve? He's feeling the same things you felt. His parents are feeling the same things your parents felt. Elizabeth, beside him, is 13. She's looking forward to all of the places her brother will drive her tomorrow. They are particularly interested in tonight's event because they're wondering if their father has a lecture on any other topic than the cleaning of one's room and its value to the household and society at large. To all my colleagues and friends here tonight, thanks for being here and for being who you are. Students, if I could have just one wish for you, it would be that you find and are found by the type of people in this room, people you don't know in this room. Friends who will laugh with you, challenge you, comfort you, people who embody what you hope to become yourself. So I want to begin this lecture, like any classroom session should begin, with a quiz. This image of the Auburn seal is missing 3 words. Right there. That white space, supposed to be words there. You know what those words are? Here's what I want you to do. Lean over to the person beside you and tell them or guess what those 3 words are. And I will tell you right now, they are not War Damn Eagles. Trivia night. So what are the words? What are the words? Here are the words. The words are, and you should know them, research, instruction, extension. Research you understand. You've written a few papers since you've been here, correct? Your professors are doing research, rendering new products, technology, and practices into society, publishing in top-tier academic journals and with the finest university presses, and in some cases, involving you in the process. We are a research university. And you clearly understand the instruction mission of the university, conveying knowledge and developing skills to use that knowledge in life and the workplace, flipping classrooms so that teachers relinquish the power and responsibility of learning so that students have deeper learning, so that takes place, instructing in ways that require collaboration, problem solving, etc. The classroom building you are sitting in right now is testimony to the institution's commitment to instruction and learning. But I want to talk for a few minutes about that third word, the one with which you are undoubtedly less familiar, extension. And at the risk of oversimplifying the history of that word, I want to remind you that Auburn is part of a unique story of higher education. The university, some of your t-shirts remind you, was chartered in 1856, opened its doors in 1859 as East Alabama Male College, which became affiliated with the Methodist Church. The town of Auburn itself was founded by Methodist families who moved here from Harris County, Georgia, along with their slaves, after the Creek Indians were removed by treaty from East Alabama. And then Congress passed the Morrill Act of 1862. Justin Smith Morrill, United States representative from Vermont, was worried about competition from Europe, which had top-rate universities and more students enrolled. The purpose of the bill was to provide for the endowment, support, and maintenance of at least one college in each state where the leading object shall be, now this is me bolding these words up here so that you will get them, without excluding other scientific or classical studies, to teach such branches of learning as are related to agriculture and the mechanic arts, in order to promote the liberal and practical education of the industrial classes in the several pursuits and professions of life. So how did it work? Well, each state was to receive 30,000 acres of public land within its boundaries for each of its congressional senators and representatives. The land could be located, claimed, and sold for cash, which was then invested to create a permanent endowment to support higher education. This was a bold act, and some scholars suggest it was really the United States' contribution to higher education and a key to the country's success. Investing in education pays off, I guess. So what happened in Alabama? I know you won't believe it, but there was a little political drama in the state related to which school would become the land-grant college. Alabama, political drama. You are not surprised, right? It needed to be an existing town or school that had buildings, since the money could only be used for programs and personnel. So in Alabama, in 1871, competition to become the land-grant college came from three main places. Tuscaloosa, you know there's a school there, Florence, northwest corner of the state, and Auburn. The University of Alabama sent their entire cadet corps to march around the State House in Montgomery as a show that perhaps they were ready to receive the land-grant funding. The college in Florence was like Auburn, a Methodist college. Leaders in Florence felt like the north part of the state was being ignored. The Methodists in Auburn were willing to give the school to the state if the agricultural and mechanical college would locate here. Leaders in Tuscaloosa said that either choice, Florence or Auburn, would create an entangling alliance with the denomination. And if Baptists had entered the debate, that would have almost certainly kept the college from being located at Auburn, because the legislature would not have wanted to be a part of a Baptist-Methodist fight. They had at least had enough sense not to do that, right? So Sheldon Toomer and another legislator from the area introduced the bill that passed. Florence did not take defeat gracefully. An editorial in a newspaper read, "No parent would risk the health of their children by sending them there." Some still say that, I guess. Isaac Taylor Titchener became the first president of Agricultural and Mechanical College in 1872. Methodists gave the core campus, this campus, and 100 acres. That's the unique foundation on which we stand. And there are other federal acts that shape the history and the story of higher education and this word, extension. The Hatch Act of 1887, some of my students are having flashbacks from that first exam when they had to memorize all of these. The Hatch Act created agricultural experiment stations, connected with colleges and universities. The second Morrill Act of 1890, I should have you recite it, expanded support for colleges and universities in states that practice segregation, including this one. The Smith-Lever Act of 1914 provided federal matching funds to support extension efforts through county-level agricultural and home demonstration agents. In 2014, the Alabama Cooperative Extension System, any of you 4-Hers in the room, they celebrated their official 100th anniversary of extending knowledge from the university to the people of the state. So Auburn's commitment to extending knowledge, extension, is found all across campus, in each college and school, as well as through the Division of University Outreach. So, we are part of a long tradition of land-grant universities who see as part of our DNA a commitment to the state and its people. President Leith recently articulated his commitment to this identity in his installation address. And if you've not read or heard that address, you should find it online. So, we extend, we reach out, we respond to needs, we create things to solve problems. Seniors, I hope you will always remember that the university you call your own has this kind of commitment to the people of the state, nation, and world. But there are some problems in society, perhaps our deepest problems, that are not solved by the application of expertise alone. Those problems that are most important for our humanity and society to make progress on: racism, sexism, anyism, failing schools, the extraordinary distrust and lack of confidence in institutions that shape our life. Those things can't be solved by expertise alone. Those are problems of relationships. As a matter of fact, when we try to solve a societal problem like we might solve any other technical problem, our success, which will only be short-term, might have long-term consequences because our best efforts might actually take away the power of citizens to act for themselves and leave them with less power or will or dependence on the institutions that dropped in to save the day. In 2009, I was asked by our associate dean to create a spring break experience. Not just a service trip, but an experience that would have an academic basis for students to explore a culture different from their own. I was thrilled when I met Marie Cirillo, who moved to the Clear Fork Valley of Tennessee. She was born in 1929 in Brooklyn, New York. She moved to the Clear Fork Valley of Tennessee in 1967, just when that coal mining community was in the midst of transition, population loss due to the mechanization of coal mining. When we arrived for spring break 2010, after having Marie visit Auburn to tell us about her community, we sat down with members of the Clear Fork Community Institute. Carol Judy led that first session. Carol died this past year. Let me tell you something about Carol. She could walk you through the forest in the mountains and explain the medicinal value of every living thing. Her email address was forestgranny@gmail.com. She made people in her community nervous because of her radical ideas related to humanity and economy. And she shocked me when, in that first meeting, the first thing she said to us, this group from Auburn, dressed in our work clothes, our boots tied tightly, our gloves resting comfortably on our laps, "We don't need you here. If you came here to save us or make us better or make us different, you are wasting your time. The problems in this community took a long time to create, and they will take a long time to solve. But," she said, "if you are here this week because you want to learn from us how we manage here in this hinterland, these mountains, and if you're willing to talk to us about the things you've learned about life and where you come from, we'll have a productive week." That's a different kind of introduction to a community. She was paraphrasing in her own context a quote from an Australian Aboriginal activist, and she meant it. "Don't refer to us as poor," Carol said. Now, you can call us money poor people, because that's true. But we possess some knowledge and skills that you don't have, so don't call us poor. Carol and Marie and others I've met along the way are part of that tradition of community and social change that holds at its core the role of people, rooted in their community, and aware of how power works, both visible and invisible power, to affect the change they seek. And you can find no better example of that in history than with the Highlander Folk School in Monteagle, Tennessee. Founded by Miles Horton on the left, a place where black and white people talked together, ate together, dreamed together, cussed together, and planned together. Rosa Parks, for example, didn't just decide one day not to give up her seat on the Montgomery bus. She credited her effort in part to her time at Highlander just 4 months earlier, which was transformative because she discovered her power there. Civil rights icon and Auburn visiting professor Bernard Lafayette Jr., along with his wife, is here tonight. Dr. Lafayette and Kate Lafayette. Kate, you ever seen this picture of Bernard? You see him on the second row back there. You thought that's who it was, didn't you? Dr. Lafayette will soon be heading to Memphis to participate in the 50th anniversary commemoration of Martin Luther King Jr.'s assassination because he was with King in Memphis on that very day. Some important commemorations will be held regarding that event this week on April the 4th and 5th. So look those up and attend. Dr. Lafayette told me about the first time he met Miles Horton. Horton said, and I paraphrase, he can correct it if he has my permission to do that. "Young man, why is it that you want to eat in the same restaurants as white people? Why in the world would you want to associate with white people when they treat you so badly?" Bernard said it made him so mad, and he was introduced for the first time to the concept of devil's advocate. You see what I'm suggesting here? There's a tradition of social change and effort that doesn't offer the solutions or the answers to certain problems, but offers a willingness to work alongside people so that solutions emerge out of that relationship. Parenthetically, if you want to see this kind of social change in today's language and generation, you can do no better than to find this Highlander-type mentality than on some of the back rows of this section over here. These young people and others who are part of something called the 50 Fund. I'm not going to tell you much about them because you're going to discover them on May the 18th. If you're smart, you're going to get yourself to the Telfair Peak Theater. 50 Fund people, raise your hand. If you're in the 50 Fund, raise your hand. These young people know how to organize, and they understand who they are, and thanks to all of their friends, Kathy Gregory and Rod and others, they're going to do something important on May the 18th. I'm not going to say anything else about it. You can go find out. This work alongside people, instead of working on people or for people or at people, is much different from our dominant way of thinking. So I don't like to think in terms of empowerment as it is traditionally described. As one higher education leader, Harry Boyd, says, "If I empower you, who really has the power?" And I used to like that little saying, you know, give a person a fish, feed them for a day, teach them how to fish, feed them. Yeah, but what if people keep stealing the fishing poles? What if the water is polluted by people upstream? What if the fish have 3 eyes and no tail? It's just not that easy. The kind of leadership that I want for students is not the kind that puts you in front of the room like this. And it's not the kind that puts you in the back of the room as a so-called humble servant leader, lost in the fog of your feigning humility. I want students to become participants who are somewhere in between, because they have connected people and are continuing to connect people, maybe even people who don't like each other, into a room for a purpose that the people themselves have identified. People who don't agree can find common ground, and they can act together, but sometimes they need some neutral facilitators to call them together. Universities are strategically located in society to be that connecting point for people. And that's why I'm so fortunate to work at the College of Liberal Arts, Caroline Marshall Drawn Center for the Arts and Humanities, my colleague Maven Beard, Brianna Foster, The center is named for one of Auburn's finest first ladies, has a 33-year history of creating opportunities for people to reflect on the human experience and participate in the life of the university no matter where they live. But this way of thinking is not the dominant way of thinking in institutions or in higher education. We teach public speaking, right? Many of y'all waited until you last semester to take public speaking. Yeah, you know, guilty, I see it. We teach public speaking, but we don't teach public listening. We teach you to find your passion, but we should also teach you to be very interested in the passion of others, starting where citizens start, listening for where people are willing to go. Yes, pay attention to the needs and the deficits in the community, but pay more attention to assets not yet fully realized. Find out what's going on right, what the people are doing, and work to build on that, rather than tell them what you think ought to be done. So listening is of utmost importance, and it's out of that listening that we determine how and when to act. Rachel Naftel, raise your hand, right here, was a junior here when we offered that first course to Appalachia. She was there when Carol Judy said, "We don't need you people here." A week or so after we returned, she came to my office and said, "Dr. Wilson, I think I'm going back." I said, "You are?" She had worked that week with a man named Cotton, who was leading students to work on a house in disrepair. And as part of that work, he mentioned that he had buried his wife in the cemetery on a hill just above them, nearby. And he offered to take Rachel up there. And when they arrived, he mentioned that they needed to get a fence put up around the grave because it was near where vehicles come. It was where the four-wheelers turn around. They kept getting closer and closer to the grave. So she said in my office, "I'm going back. I'm going to help build that fence." Don't underestimate a group of Auburn ladies with post-hole diggers and a load of lumber. Rachel's now working on a PhD in public policy. She's my graduate student, and she prepares the groups. She teaches the course for living and learning with the fine people in the hollers of the Clear Fork Valley. The adventure begins with listening. Auburn students Blake Evans, Marion Royston, and I went to see Willie Wyatt Jr., halfway between his home in Stone Mountain, Georgia, between there and Auburn. We met him to hear the story of integration of both Tuskegee High School and Macon County High School, now Notasulga, in 1963 and 64. In both cases, because of George Wallace's insistence, the governor's insistence on dividing people in every possible way during that decade, all the white people left the school, both of those schools. Part of the school at Notasulga was burned. This was tough times, and it left 6 students at the school in the spring of '64. 3 of them were seniors. Willie told us in that interview that around graduation time, the principal handed the 3 of them an envelope and said, "Congratulations, you graduated. There won't be a ceremony." There's only 3 students. So on our way back from the interview, we wondered, would folks be interested in having Anthony, Lee, and Willie, the seniors still alive, join the next graduating class? It was a long time coming, but they spoke to the senior class that spring and accepted long overdue congratulations. Willie on the left, Anthony Lee on the right. Notasulga was known back then for its Ku Klux Klan membership and activity, and Willie, on the left, laughed with his big-hearted laugh after the ceremony. He said, "Mark, you got some nerve giving me a white robe and cap and gown." Irony. Willie and Anthony came to Auburn in the fall of '64, and Anthony became the first African American to begin as a freshman and graduate as a senior from this university. We had both of them speak a few years ago in the Student Center, which was the first time either of them had returned back to campus since the 1960s. We have so much important history yet to be discovered. When journalism professor Nan Fairley, making everybody else raise their hand, Nan, raise your hand. Nan Fairley, Rachel, she was still an undergraduate, Ralph Foster of University Outreach. We accepted an invitation from the Kettering Foundation to develop a living learning experiment for undergraduates in Alabama communities during the summer. And we knew that this mode of listening first, acting later would be a critical component. Students have to research, write, and publish community stories each week that they live in the community. We hold a conference call each week to discuss and reflect on their work. Some of those past Living Democracy students are here. Audrey, who's living in New York. Any other past Living Democracy students in the room? So one night on a conference call, our weekly conference call, I called on Jelani Moore, who was Living Democracy in Elba, asking what he'd be writing on. Just got to do that going around. He said, "I'm researching an unsolved murder." That's not generally the response we receive from students. And I remember my blood pressure kind of creeping up. Actually, it went up pretty quick. But you have to know, Jelani is the student who, before he moved to Elba, purchased from Craigslist or somewhere a pet pig to go on the journey with him. This pet pig, named Sergeant Pepper, got out of the yard one day and was picked up by the Elba police, or by the Elba dog catcher. So Jelani and a new friend that he met in Elba tried to break the pig out by lifting up the corner of the fence. When a policeman drove up, he decided, well, I better do this the legal way, so the next day he went to pay the fine. But the office didn't take a debit card or a credit card. Y'all don't know what cash or check is, right? He didn't have that. So he had gotten to know the mayor, so he had a better idea. He asked the mayor to pardon Sergeant Pepper, and the mayor did. A pig pardon for Sergeant Pepper. That's the kind of people I'm dealing with, okay? So I'm on the conference call. Jelani says he's going to research an unsolved murder. That's all we need is somebody, So Jelani reports that when he's researching this unsolved murder, you get a little nervous, and I was thankful as soon as he said that it wasn't a person who was killed, but it was the town's rooster. Or it was at least a rooster that was held in great affection by many in the town. The rooster's name was Harrison Ford, also known as Bubba. I don't know why. And although there was no evidence other than a pile of feathers, most of the people Jelani interviewed pinned the crime on a yellow tomcat who seemed to have motive and opportunity. Jelanis Story was published in Elba's weekly paper. I think it was front page. Really, it was front page. And he ended with a line about the rooster only being there a short time, but that the rooster's impact would not be forgotten. I told Jelani when I saw him a few weeks ago that I continued to believe that although he was writing about a rooster, he was conveying his own story, minus the feathers, living somewhere a short time, but making a relational contribution that would last. And he did. The adventure begins with listening. So seniors, you are about to be unleashed upon the world. And soon you'll be in a job or graduate school or some other adventure. But you'll wake up each day in a community of place, an ecology of democracy. You yourself will be an extension of this university, shaped by its people and the Auburn Creed. So as the Creed states, quoting from an ancient source of wisdom, do justice, love mercy, walk humbly. Extend to that community what you've learned and the skills you've developed, but more importantly, extend yourself. And to borrow a phrase from the poet Langston Hughes, listen eloquent. Thank you.